$2,000 relief checks or stimulus checks inflation to worsen. We have a lot to cover today, guys. The Federal Reserve's fight against inflation is an obvious uphill battle, and to say that they're a little late is an understatement. And the question is, can they still maintain his red-hot inflation? And apart from inflation and some bad news, actually some very bad news, we have updates on applications still being opened for those who are eligible to receive 2,000 pandemic relief checks or stimulus checks. Let's go and jump in. Consumer prices have now jumped 7.5% just last month. And this is compared to 2021, and this is the biggest year-over-year increase since February 1982. It seems like every time I go to Walmart or the grocery store, prices on the groceries are going up and up and up. Now we are all feeling the pain, I'm pretty sure, but what can be done about it? Now the notion that higher interest rates actually helps inflation is basically built on faith. And since it has always been the solution based on long-term or long-held economic gospel of supply and demand, they are looking to go with what works. But at this point in history, will it be enough, as prices have now reached at least at the point partially unattainable numbers that cannot be mended by conventional monetary policy? Still, policymakers will try and slow down the economy and fight off inflation as best it can. They will have a two-sided approach, though the National Bank will raise benchmark monetary loan fees while likewise reducing the more than $8 trillion in securities that it collected over the course of the year to assist with keeping cash moving throughout the economy at the higher interest rates. By the Fed raising interest rates would actually make the cost of the money more expensive and acquiring less engaging. So that basically slows down the demand to kind of catch up with the supply, which has been unbelievably slow all throughout the pandemic. Less demand implies that traders will be feeling the squeeze to reduce costs to drive individuals to purchase their items. President of Ski Kuma Global Strategies had this to say if any adverse effects would happen, as the Fed is now behind inflation by a lot. Stagflation is certainly something that we hope to avoid, but he still has some faith in what has happened time and time again with inflation when it has risen. Now, at this point, the Fed seems to be walking on eggshells as they try to find the balance between inflation, stagflation, and recession, of course, and an off chance that they actually do succeed to tame inflation, that is the best outcome that would be best for everyone. But according to Joseph Irodato, chief economist, it's not looking too hard for the Fed. Quote, outside of recession, you're not going to get inflation down. It's very easy for the Fed to talk tough now. But if you go a few more hikes and all of a sudden the employment picture looks weak, is the Fed really going to keep talking tough? If you think about inflation, you have to slow demand. Now we've got a supply component to it. They can't do anything about supply. That's why they have to compress demand more than they would normally do. That's where you get a recession, end quote. What do you guys think? Are we in for a recession? Maybe stagflation? How about frustration? I know that the last one speaks volumes for all of us. But let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments below. Now we have news of another state still accepting application for stimulus checks, and this one's for $2,000 into liquid Oklahoma, more than $620 million in pandemic assistance payments that has been distributed since last November of the Cherokee Nation to assist Cherokee citizens since May 2021. It was announced by the Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin, as well as Deputy Chuck Brian Warner, at 43% of the $1.8 billion received from the third stimulus checks package, or the American Rescue Plan, was set aside to give pandemic assistance to Cherokees. Now, at this point, more than 313,000 Cherokee citizens have applied and have received a $2,000 stimulus checks payments. According to Chief Hoskin, quote, we know these assistance payments or stimulus checks have tremendously helped our tribal citizens and their loved ones recover from the economic hardships faced from what has been the worst public health crisis in generations. In June 1st, 2022, deadline for the assistance payment is approaching. So we hope our Cherokee citizens who have not yet registered on our portal for the assistance payments will do so before the deadline, as Deputy Chief and I are allowing for Cherokee citizens with pending citizenship application to receive the funds after June 1st, as long as their application is in input. The Cherokee Nation has received the largest volume of citizen applications ever over the past year. Now, for those who will be able to submit citizenship application by June 1st of this year, or if you have pending application with registration, you are still eligible to receive the relief payment or the stimulus check through June 1st, 2024. Deputy Chief Warner, he said, quote, "The program was a major undertaking and a historic one for the Cherokee Nation, but has helped so many families in their time of the ankle. Now again, guys, this trend is not stopping, and soon states over the country are using either parts of their stimulus package or funds that they received from the American Rescue Plan, which was the third stimulus check package, to provide financial assistance in the form of stimulus checks or tax refunds in different forms for their people. Now I'm telling you guys, Democrats got a taste of the Congress White House monopoly. Now Biden's all about inflation, or at least looking like he's doing something about inflation. They rolled out a host of initiatives to fix supply chain issues, including in the transportation, agriculture, meat processing, and also semiconductor sectors. Just last week, he announced a plan to release millions of barrels of oil from the Cherokee River to help bring down gas prices. Another expert pointed out how President Biden's budget proposal, quote, reflects that reality of rising costs of living and concerns about crime, end quote. And the call President Biden's plan, an important guide for Democrats running up and down the ballot, end quote. I took a look at the budget proposal for you guys, and I got to say there's some pretty promising stimulus clues here. There's a whole part dedicated to delivering urgent relief. It mainly talks about the more than $175 million economic impact payments, or stimulus checks of $1,400 to the vast majority of Americans, totaling over $400 million in relief. Then of the funding to all 50 states and more than 34,000 cities, towns, and countries to help prevent layoffs and actually get workers back on the job. Oh, and also the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which delivered 3.8 million payments totaling $33 billion to eligible households back in 2021. By the way, most emergency rental assistance programs still have a lot of cash to give out. Even if you've gotten some already, you can still go back if you find yourself behind on rent. Now, if you're looking at an eviction notice on your door, and the first thing a lawyer would advise you to do is to apply for rental assistance, because sometimes the fact that you apply would actually be more than enough evidence to win your case in front of the judge. So don't miss your chance. You guys, all this stimulus went a long way in reducing hardships for Americans all over. Now the analysis of Census Bureau surveys found two latest rounds of 8 significantly improved Americans' ability to buy food and pay household bills, as well as reduce anxiety and depressions, with the largest benefits going to the poorest household and those with children. And this is exactly why we're always on the lookout for more stimulus programs, stimulus checks, tax rebates, and any other kind of freebies that we get our hands on. And well guys, just like that, another video is done in the books. So I'll be here each and every single day to give you guys updates. So I just want to thank you guys so much for always watching. Thank you always for your support.